Bitcoin's the best expression of currency debasement. Bitcoin equals technology plus fiat liquidity. So I think a lot of the growth is driven by the destruction of fiat. Bitcoin is literally the antithesis of fiat. It's the best expression. If you want to see how bad fiat really is, pull up a Bitcoin chart. Don't look at the CPI. If a government that has that power is able to buy Bitcoin and acknowledge it, not even the legal tender part, just acknowledge it, own it, and validate it, that would be a huge deal.
Jack Mallers is sounding the alarm, and what he's saying could change everything. He's not just talking about Bitcoin's price, it's bigger than that. As governments scramble under massive debt and inflation skyrockets, Bitcoin emerges as the lifeline. The clock is ticking on traditional financial systems, and Mallers is here to show you why Bitcoin might be the only way to protect your hard-earned money from being wiped out. Stick around, because what's coming could turn the entire financial world upside down, and you don't want to miss it.
Bitcoin, more broadly, is an open value transfer protocol. The world is the way I like to think of it. And if you can have an open value transfer protocol that's able to achieve near instant and near free finality, that's tremendously disruptive. Like just pillar by pillar, you want to compare that to card networks, to settlement networks like Swift, it's just better. And so to me, there's been no production at scale competitor to Lightning. I feel as if Lightning has failed or has had major issues. I think the word success is so difficult in Bitcoin because it can carry so many different definitions depending on the room and the context. Like if for you, success of Lightning is 8 billion people with a non-custodial wallet on their phone, no, it's not successful yet. But if success is you can have value on someone's balance sheet transferred in less than a second and for free to someone else's balance sheet, like real bearer physical value, like it does that at any scale, and it does it better than anything else in the world. The thing that's challenging is, again, it's like solving a consumer problem. So, okay, you've technically achieved something in payments that was previously impossible. Physical bearer, global settlement, way faster, way cheaper. But, where is that applicable to disrupt existing industries, monetize it, and change consumer behavior? We've seen the most success in cross-border payments. It's very difficult to change consumer behavior when they check out at a grocery store because of the way card networks work and interchange and the incentive structure and the monopolies or duopolies. Cross-border payments, there's a lot more natural friction and pain, and the benefits are a lot better, but still, it's a lot easier to sell someone Bitcoin that's living through the greatest inflation levels even in New York City than it is to sell them on a new way to do cross-currency payments. The problem is the way that the relationships work is Visa monetizes, or any card network, they monetize what they call the acquiring side, the merchant. And so the merchant is the one, as we all know, that's paying these rent-seeking prices, 2-3%. But then what they do is they work with the banks, they are the banks, and that capital goes back to the consumer. And so the consumer is getting free Napa Valley wine, access to really nice lounges in every major airport. They're getting free flights across the country or across the world. It's the merchant that's in a lot of pain. So you can go to any merchant and say, hey, there's a cheaper, better way to accept any currency. It's just on an open source network. They're going to say, I love that. But if you say, okay, now consumer, the issuing side is what they call it. You now have to walk into the grocery store and use a network that doesn't give you free wine and free flights and free access to all these VIP experiences. They're not going to do that. And so the challenge is, how do you change that consumer behavior? And it's very difficult, and you can do it with lots of marketing dollars and lots of pushes. And by the way, this battle is not only fought in Bitcoin. You have things like Cash App Pay, or Venmo has their own checkout, where they're subverting card networks, and they're trying to find a way to incentivize the consumer, because if Visa and MasterCard isn't in the flow of funds, everyone wins, right? There's the same size of pie with less people eating. Of course, everyone is incentivized to get them out, but it's how do you you get the guy or girl that's checking out at the store to use this network and not the network that just pays them to use it? So merchants are the ones footing the bill, and they're basically paying consumers to use this one with free wine and points and stuff. And that's the challenge. And so I think we all philosophically want Lightning over Visa. Merchants would love that. You'll never meet a merchant that says otherwise, but it's at scale. How do you convince people to sacrifice all the free shit they're getting? And it's a hard problem. Bitcoin's the best expression of currency debasement. Bitcoin equals technology plus fiat liquidity. So I think a lot of the growth is driven by the destruction of fiat, is the level of deficits and the debt spiral that I think we're probably already in. So I think that's the net catalyst, the overall catalyst. If governments wanted to slow down the adoption of Bitcoin, they could spend less and go back on a gold standard. It wouldn't kill it and Bitcoin would still win, but probably slower. So the pace at which this is evolving is entirely driven by the destruction of the currency and the debasement of the currency. And I think Bitcoin is literally the antithesis of fiat. It's the best expression. If you want to see how bad fiat really is, pull up a Bitcoin chart. Don't look at the CPI. If a government that has that power is able to buy Bitcoin and acknowledge it, not even the legal tender part, just acknowledge it, own it, and validate it, that would be a huge deal. And I actually think the United States of America is probably in the best position to do that, and where I think they're the most likely candidate because they have the world reserve currency. Like the US is like, we just issue debt. Like we're, being the world reserve currency implies that we run these massive deficits and we issue all of this debt, right? And so we are the most incentivized to actually start backing our future promises with something real.
Jack Mallers explains how Bitcoin is more than just digital currency. It's the key to reclaiming financial control. He highlights that Bitcoin's growth, driven by the collapse of traditional systems, is not speculative but essential. With governments, especially the US, drowning in debt and unable to deliver real growth, Bitcoin, growing at 63% annually, offers a solution. Stick with this video because what's coming next might be the most important shift you'll ever witness.
People would ask me, what's the next? Is it, Guatemala, Argentina? Everyone was like looking on a map, looking through Latin America. I said, it might be the United States. Bitcoin's very American, and the United States, in theory, is technology, innovation, inclusion, equality. Every node on the network is treated equal. You can come and go as you please. So maybe I'm manifesting a little bit. Maybe this is less of a prediction, more of a hope, but I think that would be a really big deal. And as big of a deal as El Salvador was, the next step would be a government that actually can print their money and debase the populace through money printing. If they were to say this Bitcoin thing's legit and we should have some, I think that'd be massive. We have to start backing our future promises with something real. And we talk about Bitcoin 63% growth every single year. The US is looking for growth. We're talking about debt to GDP, right? We're borrowing all this money without the growth to pay it back. With Bitcoin, you could literally buy growth off the shelf. It's like, you just oh yeah, I'll take a sandwich, a Coke Zero, and that thing that grows 63% a year. And so it's like, we have a growth problem. We're not growing enough to back our future promises, and we need to signal to the world that we acknowledge and we care about these things. So yeah, I think America is very well positioned, given reserve currency status, the deficits, who we've been as a country, to lead that. And I think a lot of people are looking for us to make that move well. Yeah, I mean, again, I think of money as your time, energy in an abstracted form is a really important point, because if they're debasing the currency, they're debasing you. You get less housing, you get less family, you get less food, you get less gas, you get less energy. The government can tell you all these things about future growth and how they're going to fix the deficits and everything. You can't print 18-year-olds. It takes 18 years to make an 18-year-old. And so we want people to be having more kids. We want people to be living longer. We want people to be healthy. We want people to be married. And so I think these all have to do with the money being broken fundamentally, and the government's ability to debase us through currency printing. And so if the United States were to acknowledge Bitcoin, support it, own it, we would have a sitting president or government or whatever that supports the industry. I think as the world reserve currency issuer, I think that'd be as big a deal as I could have ever dreamed of when I got into Bitcoin.
We're running out of time, but the message couldn't be clearer. Jack Mallers just laid out why fixing the money can literally fix the world. From skyrocketing divorce rates to declining population growth, all signs point to a broken system. And it all comes back to money. If the US were to truly embrace Bitcoin, we could be on the verge of a financial revolution that reshapes everything. Our families, our health, our future. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget, fixing the money is the first step toward fixing everything else. Catch you in the next one.